We are here with 4 of the 5 Republican candidates in Florida House District 31. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
You all may be aware, if you've watched any of these before, that we dispense with a couple of questions before we get started on issues, just a couple of background questions that we ask all the candidates. The first question is, have you been arrested before? And we'll go down this way on the table, so we'll start with Ms. Seefeldt.
No.
Okay.
No.
No, I have not.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Now, from Ms. Sullivan's end, have you declared bankruptcy before?
I have not.
No, I have not.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Great. Terrific. Ms. Seefeldt, if you could tell us why you're seeking this office.
Well, I've been going to Tallahassee for 19 years as a citizen, advocating for my clients. I serve in the insurance business, and I've seen that it's impactful to be involved and engaged, and I would like to do something more than just show up once or twice a year and serve the people of District 31.
Okay. We'll continue. You anticipated, I think, Ms. Seefeldt, what I was going to say to all of you, and that is we normally don't have a group this big, so it's going to be pretty important that we keep our answers pretty succinct so we can get to as many issues as possible within the time that we have. And you did a beautiful job. You set a very good example starting this out. So, okay, we'll go to Ms. Grassel.
All righty. Well, as a nurse and a teacher, I have been advocating since 1989 in Tallahassee, locally and in Tallahassee, for patients and nurses and students and teachers and families. And I was up there, I think I've missed 3 sessions the entire time since '89. This past year I was up there 3 times. And I want to vote now. I think it's important to make a stand and to talk to your constituents and represent them well.
Okay. Dr. Glisson.
Yes. Well, I'm a small business owner. I'm a chiropractic physician and been active in our community. And the opportunity came up with House District 31. My father served in the State House and Senate from '68 to '78. So between the ages of 8 and 18, I saw my dad care for his constituents and do what I thought was a good job. So it was kind of placed in my DNA, and I've never held public office, and I want to take my experience as a business owner, physician, and knowing my community and take that experience to Tallahassee.
And Ms. Sullivan.
I'm running as a true principled conservative Republican to be a representative of the people and not special interest groups, which I think people are fed up with seeing their elected officials bought out, and that the people deserve true representation. And so that's one of the reasons I'm running. I've been involved in the process for the past 7 years, the only one on the Lake County Republican board, and have been taking on the tough fights locally and on the state level, holding out principle, and that's what I would like to continue to do, putting the people first and serving them.
I wanted to follow up. Could you define for us what a true principled Republican is?
Absolutely. So principled is someone to me who's going to make the decision based on what is morally, ethically right, not on what's going to further their own personal power. Principled means that you don't, your positions on issues don't change based on what direction the wind is going to blow and what is going to be best for popularity's sake, but rather you have the principles of integrity, honesty, your character that you stand for. Conservative can be very broad, but what I mean by conservative is fiscally conservative, socially conservative. Someone who's going to hold true to the value of our Constitution. I would say that's a beautiful example of conservatism, what our founding fathers intended this country to look like.
Thank you for that. And I guess I'm going to start with Mr. Glisson on this question. What do you see as the top 3 challenges facing the state right now, and what plans do you have to resolve these issues?
Okay. Well, you know, I think creating jobs is still top on the list. I think by creating more jobs, we create more revenue for the state of Florida without having to increase taxes. So I've said it all along, 90% of the businesses in the state of Florida are small businesses, and those are 12 or fewer or fewer employees. So I think we need to concentrate on how we continue to make a positive environment for small businesses to grow, in turn creating more jobs. I think that certainly on the radar is healthcare, and I know that we need to have accessibility, we need to have affordability, so that people can go to their physician and be seen at reasonable cost and expenditures. So I think healthcare is certainly a big one, and I think education is certainly on the chart, and I believe expanding vocational education is going to be very important in creating jobs and moving the economy forward.
Quick follow-ups on
Okay.
all those. As far as jobs, are you suggesting that our focus should be on incubating small businesses that already exist here in Florida to the exclusion of courting bigger businesses to Florida?
Well, I don't think we should exclude big businesses coming to Florida, but the statistics say that the majority of jobs are created by small businesses. So I think that, yes, we do need to concentrate on small businesses in an environment that would that would help create small businesses moving forward.
Okay. On healthcare, then, would you propose that Florida accept federal money to expand Medicaid?
Okay, and no, I know we've, what we've absorbed here in the past year, working in healthcare on a day-to-day, on the front lines. I've seen some of the, the confusion and difficulties, and I think to have taken that on would have certainly not been a good idea at all. So, I think, our healthcare, our education, I think it's better left to us as a state figuring a lot of this out and not being mandated by the federal government.
Thank you. Ms. Grassel, same question, top 3 challenges facing the state and your specific solutions to deal with those issues.
Okay, well, of course, I think our economy it needs to continue to grow. We have businesses coming into the state of Florida that have been beneficial, but I also have concerns about the small town in Iowa or other places that has become socially and economically depleted because that business left there and came here. I would much rather see us grow our own. We have wonderful technology and innovations in our colleges and universities and the incubator programs throughout the state of Florida, and I really would rather us grow our own. I think that's a more stable environment. People who come here from other states may also turn around and leave if they get a better deal somewhere else. Of course, being a teacher, I think education is critical. I think that we need to have valid and reliable accountability. I believe that our education system is fatally flawed at this point. I think we need to have an entire paradigm shift into what standards we're going to choose, our delivery system, and I believe that's best developed by educators. I think teachers need to help with that. We have non-educators making education decisions, and we have a lot of public money going to private for-profit schools. I'm not opposed to private schools or religious schools at all. My undergraduate degree is from Florida Southern. It's a Methodist college, and I enjoyed that a lot. But that was my choice, and it didn't have public funds to do it. I believe that we need to healthcare. We need to really address our healthcare issues. I am in favor of accepting the Medicaid money from the federal government. It's our money. We've already paid it, and we need to get it back. Now, it's a short-term fix, but in the meantime, it gives us a couple of years that we can work on those issues of keeping primary care patients out of the emergency rooms and making insurance companies have less of an impact on the health care. Those decisions need to be made by the patients and their health care providers. And we can do a lot of those things by expanding the role of nurse practitioners. They're a wonderful source of primary care. So we have some time during that Medicaid expansion money that we can work on fixing things.
Thank you. Ms. Seefeldt.
Well, jobs as well. I mean, jobs is the economic engine that drives our economy. I want to fight for less regulation, less taxation, and less litigation. Florida is one of the most litigious states in the country, and that does not bode well for business. Some of the things I think that are upcoming that are concerning from a litigious viewpoint are things with what's happening with the federal government, for example, with the Defense of Marriage Act. There are changes in the definition of what is a spouse. Florida does not recognize same-sex spouses, but we have companies here that employ people who profess to have been married in other states, that's a legitimate spouse, and it creates a fear of lawsuits when they fail to add these people there. So we need to figure out a way to help protect our employers under our current laws and still let them comply with their own religious values and freedoms, and not be fearful of being sued for not opening up the door to letting same-sex couples, if that's their preference, be forced on their plan. I'm also concerned about, it looks like the marijuana bill will pass, and there's also concerns with employers about conflicts with their drug-free workplace policies. There's already lawsuits that have occurred in California and Oregon where people have drug-free workplace and the employee shows up high and then claims, then they get terminated for showing up high, violating the drug-free workplace, then the employer gets sued for wrongful termination. Also with people that own condominiums or apartment complexes, there's exposure there for them if they have a smoke-free environment, and then you have someone that they go through eviction proceedings and perhaps they claim they were under doctor's care. So some of these things with the laws that are currently changing could be exposures for our employers and business owners we need to be aware of, first and foremost. Education, something we need to come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Common Core. I think everyone agrees that that is not the track that Florida wants to go on. And we need to make it okay again that it's okay to be educated in a vo-tech school and that those jobs are just as honorable as getting a college degree. And I think that needs to start as well. And lastly, water issues. Florida has a growing population, and we need to make sure that our water is clean and plentiful. And I think the establishment of the BMAP program, the Basin Management Action Plans, have been a good one, and that those should be continued to be funded and promulgated in the various watersheds and water spring areas.
Thank you. Sullivan, last but not least.
Remind me of the question, was it what specific 3 issues facing the state of Florida? Well, based on the conversations that I've had at the door with people within my district, I'd say that education falls as number 1, specifically as it relates to Common Core. I think you see that our education of students is not only our future workforce, but our future leadership and the direction of our state, and we want that to be strong. So I am against Common Core. I believe that it needs to be repealed for a number of reasons. I think it was bad policy adopted under Charlie Crist, and I think that it's important that we keep control local. We have local school boards for a reason, and I think that our students are not common students. They don't come from common households, and so to put common standards on them, such as Common Core, you're really setting the students up for failure. Math is no longer being taught as it once was, and it's separating parents and grandparents from being able to even help their students. Those are some of the concerns that I've heard at the door regarding Common Core. Secondly, I would say, specifically addressing my district in the state of Florida, would be jobs. There's so many small business owners within our district that have made it through this harsh economic time, but they've just barely survived, and they want to be able to thrive. So many people have invested their retirement, their life savings, and I think that Rick Scott has done a good job in taking steps towards removing regulations and taxes, but there's a lot more work to be done. And so as a state representative in this district, that's what I'm committed to doing, to making sure being small businesses owners' voice, because you don't have to be a small business owner to recognize that they need representation. They need a voice at the table that's going to help and be an advocate for lower taxes, less red tape, fewer regulations. Thirdly, I would say the biggest issue addressing Florida, quite honestly, is the encroachment of the federal government. I think that Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act falls under that. If we didn't have the federal government mandating a product on our sovereign state, we wouldn't be in the place that we're at as it relates to the Affordable Health Care Act or as it relates to Common Core. And so I think that as a sovereign state, we have to elect individuals who, one, understand the role of government, two, understand state sovereignty, and three, will fight for the people and their freedoms that are trying to be taken away from the federal government.
Thank you.
Dr. Glisson, you said that, you mentioned that you had never held public office before. Has anyone else at the table held an elective office before?
Other than like Orange County Republican Executive Committee. It's
Okay.
sort of like within the party. Though.
Sure. Is that a position that's on the ballot?
Within the precinct. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a precinct committee woman for Orange County
Okay.
Republican Executive Committee. Yes.
Okay.
I'm a precinct committee woman for Lake County within my precinct.
Okay.
I was elected countywide twice as president of the Florida Nurses Association, Lake County chapter, and then also president of the Lake County Education Association. I served 2 terms with the nurses and 3 terms with the teachers. I ran each of those times and won each of those times. And that was a countywide.
Okay. I'm curious, starting with, let's say, starting with Ms. Sullivan, why in a group of 5 candidates, which is an unusually large group, why voters in that district should choose you over the other 4 candidates, over your rivals?
Okay, great question. I think that they should choose me because nobody is working harder to earn their vote right now, and nobody's going to work harder to represent them in Tallahassee. I think that people, again, like I said in the beginning, are tired of candidates being bought out by special interest groups and not being able to have their voice heard. And that's something that makes me different. I think that, you know, I have the unique ability to reach the millennial generation, which for the direction of our state as a conservative Republican, seeing that in the last presidential election we went blue, I think it's vitally important that we're able to reach our millennial generation with a principled conservative Republican message, and we need to have a leader that they're willing to follow, and that's something that makes me unique as a candidate in this race. I think that nobody else has spent more time studying the role of government and teaching on it. That's what I've spent the past 5 years working as a youth development leader, traveling the state of Florida and the country, engaging young people in the process and showing them how to value their liberties. No one has been working harder on these issues already. Like I said in the beginning, I serve on the board of the Republican Executive Committee, and I've been taking on local issues such as wasteful spending at the Lake County Board of County Commission level. I've been fighting Common Core before I got into this race up in Tallahassee, and have been an advocate on these issues for a number of years, as well as working to elect conservative candidates within this district. And so I have a track record of working on these issues, and as it relates to social issues as well, and that's what I'll continue to do. I believe that actions speak louder than words, and I've been able to prove that through my actions.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Glisson.
Yes. Well, being a part of my community for over 50 years, getting out of college in 1986 and returning to my hometown, and practicing healthcare in a small business, growing to the point of adding family medicine, podiatry, and chiropractic, building a business from the ground up, really understanding, you know, what it means, not just from a book, but from living it every day, to understanding what it means to be taxed, understanding what it means to be regulated. I want to take that experience and, again, represent my district and hopefully make the state of Florida a better place. As far as community involvement, I mean, I was taught from an early age that giving back was just a part of. And so, you know, I would be happy to, you know, I could go on and on about community involvement today, but, you know, I think it's the role of the private sector to help those that fall through the cracks. And I don't think it's the role of the government to always have to do that. So, you know, I'm excited about this run, And I think that, you know, we have 5 candidates in the process, and I think that this district will be better because of it.
My turn.
Your turn.
My turn, all right. I think that the constituents really are very fortunate for District 31 because all 5 candidates are good people. We're all nice, we're all honest, we're all ethical. And we all believe in upholding the Constitution. We all believe in maintaining gun rights. But we're different in, I am a more moderate conservative. I am very fiscally conservative, and I believe in staying within your budget. But I am also opposed to private school vouchers. I'm a pro-public education person. I believe, like I mentioned before, that we need to have our Medicare money back to the state of Florida. I believe that I can work across the aisle. I have constituents from all walks of life, all political parties, and I've been going for the past year. I've traveled the entire district going to chamber meetings, council meetings, commission meetings, and listening to folks. And what they're telling me is that they need someone that's not so polarized, someone who can look at the issues from both sides. And I believe in Tallahassee that there will be some things that we'll never agree on, but there are some things that we can start with, and we need to work there and then negotiate everything else. I am very, very fortunate to be endorsed by 2 organizations that represent the most respected professions around, and that's nurses and teachers, and as well as 4 of our local mayors. And so they know me, they know my dedication, they know my education and experience that I have, and so I want to take that to Tallahassee, and that's how we're different. Thank you.
If I can jump in just
Sure.
a moment, Paul. You brought up an important point about bipartisanship and polarization. Yes. Why do you think we have reached the state of polarization that we have here in Tallahassee, and what can you do specifically to reach across the aisle?
Well, I've noticed that since 1989 on forward, it used to be that people could have a healthy debate and then go out to dinner. Right now, what I observe in committee meetings and on the floor of the House and Senate is that when one party is speaking, the opposite party will actually turn their back and sometimes even walk out of the room. And that concerns me because I believe we need to pull this back and start working collaboratively. Like I said, there may be some things that fundamentally we may never agree on, but I think that we need to look at the big picture. We need to work together because I'm afraid that if we don't fix that in Tallahassee now, that we're going to end up like Washington, and that concerns me greatly. Because I've worked with legislators in Tallahassee that were both Republican and Democrat. And I think that we can work together on it, and it's critical. As to why it's happening, I think it's just partisan politics.
Do you think that people now see compromise as a form of weakness?
No, I believe that they're looking for it. The constituents that I look for ask me, are you way over here or are you way over there? I said, no, I'm pretty much in the middle, and what I'm hearing is that's what we want. We want people who can work together.
Thank you. Paul, sorry to hijack
That's okay. The last, I want to give Ms. Seefeldt a chance to answer that question. Why should voters pick you over your rivals?
Well, my experience is beyond just political involvement. I feel like I've been preparing for this role for the last 25 years. I've been a leader in my industry, the insurance and financial services industry. I've served as president of several associations. I've served on state boards. I've developed an expertise in the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, and began speaking out about that bill 4.5 years ago when it first passed. I've given over 100 speeches all over the state of Florida. I've testified on a variety of panels with state elected officials, people from the Department of Labor, insurance commissioners, and become known as an expert. I teach continuing education on this subject to CPAs, human resource managers, insurance professionals, medical coding society. And although it's a federal law, many of the parts of this law will fall upon our state to deal with. And as a result, I have been endorsed by a large number of industry associations, including the Florida Medical Association, the Florida Institute of CPAs, the Chamber, and many more. And it's not because I'm bought out by special interest, it's because they appreciate my abilities to do the job and my expertise in a bill that impacts all of them, and their employees and their members. Like I said, I've traveled to Tallahassee for the last 19 years as a citizen, and I want to do something more than just show up once or twice a year. I want to be more impactful and take my life experiences as a business owner, as someone who's raised a son, a homeowner. You know, I want to take all those life experiences and represent the people of District 31. Thank you.
I'm curious from each of you, and if you all could keep your answers relatively brief, what's going to be different for the constituents in this district who have become accustomed to being served by Representative Nelson over the last 8 years? What will be different if you're elected? I'll start with you, Ms. Seefeldt.
Well, that's a good question. Well, I mean, we're all different people. I mean, Brian's background, his family was in the agriculture business for many years, so he's always had a very close tie to the agriculture industry, and of course at the insurance, he's the chair of the Insurance and Banking Committee, and one of only 5 or 6 licensed agents up there. So his expertise is more on the property casualty side, like the citizens and the homeowners and auto insurance, and mine's more on the people side. And so I hope I can bring a different dynamic to that. We part ways sometimes, like on the bills that passed with the immigration, where they allow non-citizens to become lawyers. I know I wouldn't have supported that personally. So we're not in lockstep, but we just have different backgrounds and so on.
Okay. Ms. Grassel.
Well, I think that visibility and communication with the district is something that will be different. As I'm walking and talking and meeting with folks, and I explain that it's an open seat, and they said, well, who's our representative now? Many of them have never heard of him. And so I think it's very important. I know he's from Apopka, and I know the folks in that Apopka area know him well, but there are many folks in Lake County, and that's 2/3 of the district, that have no idea who he is. And I think that's unfortunate. I am retired. I'm not looking for a job. I have a very financially sound retirement, so I do have time to communicate and to continue to work the district and let our constituents know who their representative is, and continue to find out what their concerns are.
Dr. Glisson.
Okay. Well, you know, as I go door to door and talk to voters, the neatest thing in the world is to walk up to a door and to be greeted by, "Hey, Randy." So, I mean, you know, if I'm chosen, honored to be elected by the constituents of this district, yeah, I'm going to be a grassroots representative. I mean, I know my community, and I'm going to be responsible to that community. So, you know, I look forward to, you know, to trying to bridge gaps where we can, bring communities together where we can. I mean, you know, the greatest thing about this district, it is 2/3 Lake County, part 1/3 Orange County, but you know, the West Orange County residents, the East North Lake County residents, you know, they're all the same wonderful people. And I could think of, you know, no better honor than to be chosen by those constituents to really represent them on a grassroots basis.
Okay, Ms. Sullivan.
I think the two main differences will be Representative Nelson obviously has led the charge and chaired the insurance committee as it relates to insurance reform, and so I foresee my area of focus being education rather than insurance, so that would be a different. However, I'm also very committed to making sure that all the different areas of focus and business industries represented in my district are represented with a voice in Tallahassee. I purpose to secure subject matter experts in every field, because none of us at this table know everything about every industry. And so it's important that we have subject matter experts to go to for advice, and that we're not representing just one sole industry, but we're being true to what a representative is supposed to do. So that's something that will be different. Also, my focus on constituent services, making sure that every single person in the district is taken care of, no matter if you live in Apopka or Lake County, and having a visibility in both areas. I purposed to campaign fully in the entire district, not just focusing on one specific area, and making myself available, whether it be through having town halls throughout the district to come back and report on legislative issues, or even before going up to Tallahassee, holding events where people can come publicly and voice their concerns and ideas, reaching out to them, providing those opportunities, and not just saying, that's great, call me and come in to see me, but I want to go to where you are, and putting them first. And so I think that's something I'm very passionate about, and something that would be different.
Wanted to explore the bipartisan issue. Again, we talked with Ms. Grassel a little bit, but I wanted to ask each of you as well. What are some initiatives or ideas that you have that you think would draw bipartisan support in the legislature? And since you spoke last, we'll go down to the other end and work our way down again. Ms. Seefeldt.
Bipartisanship, well, I think having mutual respect of your peers is largely in part that creates bipartisanship. Also being informed, not being emotionally driven, having your facts straight.
I think what Daryl's wondering though is what proposals, what might be on your to-do list as a legislator that you think would draw support from both parties.
Oh, okay. I thought you just thought creating bipartisanship. Okay.
No, I'm glad Paul clarified that.
Okay. Well, I think I think the water issue is not a one party or other issue. I think everyone, regardless of party, wants clean and plentiful water for their families and where they live. So I don't think that's I think that would be an easy first starter to get that settled. And I think regardless of party, everyone wants a good education for their child. And I know how you go about that differs sometimes from party to party. I think Democrats tend to be more purist in the form of public education, and Republicans like to have more choice and more vouchers, so there are some divides there. But I think ultimately we have to keep the children in mind first and foremost with whatever proposals we come up, because ultimately it's for them.
Let me, 2 quick follow-ups on that. As far as the water quality issue, were you disappointed that there wasn't much movement in the legislative session that just passed on water quality?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised about that. I also believe they probably didn't want any controversial issues in this last session because of the pending governor's race. Not that I find that that's a controversial issue, but.
And I guess just from some of what you just said, I presume that you are a proponent of school choice then?
Yes.
Ms. Grassel?
Okay, I think one thing that everyone in the state of Florida, no matter what party you are, is concerned about is safety, along with all the other things we've talked about. I believe that it doesn't take a gun, it takes any kind of weapon. We just recently had a family that was destroyed in Tavares with a baseball bat. I believe that the weapon is not important. I said what I believe is important is addressing the mental health issues. As I talk to people in Orange and Lake County, they're concerned about their safety. They're becoming less willing to shop, go to movies, go out because of the violence that's occurring. And many times the violence that is occurring in our Central Florida, or actually all over the country, is at the hands of someone who is mentally unstable. And I think that we need to get rid of the stigma attached to mental health treatment. I spent several years as a nursing supervisor for an inpatient mental health facility. And people don't want to admit that they have depression or they're hearing voices. It's okay to go to the doctor if you have high blood pressure or diabetes, but it's not okay in the community if you have mental health issues. And I think that we need to educate people more about mental health and make mental health care an okay thing to get and make it more accessible. Because I think if we keep people on an even keel mentally, that we can probably get rid of some of the safety concerns that we have.
Mr. Gleason?
Well, you know,
I'm sorry.
no, you're good. As a physician that's treated thousands of patients, I mean, I see people for people, and I don't see people as a party, although, you know, we may have differences in how we feel philosophically, you know, the government or our state, or, you know, my personal opinions are best, you know, acted out. At the end of the day, people are people. And I don't, you know, the healthcare, the education, the economy, I mean, I think those are all things we can get together behind. And at the end of the day, you know, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, you know, they all own small businesses. They're all looking for you know, for work, because at the end of the day, people want to take, I believe people want to take care of their families. They want to be, you know, responsible members of our community. So I think there's a lot of issues we can get together on. And I would look forward to, you know, not really just saying one issue, but I don't see why we can't move forward on a lot of issues.
Ms. Sullivan?
I think that human trafficking was something that was addressed last time in the legislature, that there may be things that we continue to do within that nature that's bipartisan. I think that making sure our students are put first is something that everyone can agree in. I think that what's great with 120 of us up there, we all bring different ideas to the table of what it looks like to put students first. So I think it's areas like that that I don't believe you should ever compromise on principle, but I mean, politics is the art of compromise as it relates to issues. And so I think what's important is recognizing the fact that you need to treat other people the way you want to be treated. No matter what letter is next to your name, that person is an individual who has representation to bring from their district, and they have value. And so no matter what your party association is, you know, if there's a Republican chairman of a committee and there's Democrats in your committee, I believe that those Democratic bills should be heard, because it's an idea that should be brought forth, and you should never fear the debate. And so I think we can also all get behind the fact that we need jobs. We need to get people back to work, and that we agree that it's not the role of government to create jobs, but rather to create an environment of opportunity for growth and economic prosperity. And so I think that that's something, no matter what your party affiliation is, you can get behind that idea. I think Ronald Reagan said some of the worst words were, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. We all know that government does few things well, and so I think we can agree if we can get government more out of the way and trust people to make those decisions that are best for themselves, letting people keep more of their tax dollars, giving them more choice in education and those types of things, I think we can get behind.
I think we'll leave that as the last word. I'd like to thank you all for coming in today.
Well, thank you for
Thank
inviting
you.
us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you very much.